this is Carson Day with Synthtopia and Dave Smith Instruments at 2016 Summer NAMM Nashville. For 2016 NAMM, we've introduced the OB-6 module. It is a smaller, more compact version of the OB-6 keyboard. Has the exact same audio electronics on the insides and every single knob and button from the keyboard as well. So if you want to have a module, you don't have enough room in your studio, you have too many keyboards, it's exactly the same as the keyboard. So it just has this wonderful open forward sound of Oberheim synthesizers of the past. This one is based off the SEM voice, particularly the filter just has that very characteristic grabby sound that you know from the SEM. So starting with the signal path going from left to right, you have two VCOs. The first VCO is continuously variable from sawtooth to square. You have pulse width modulation of the square wave as well. And VCO 1 can be synced to oscillator 2. VCO 2 has an additional waveform of a triangle and sawtooth and square. Again, continuously variable. You have a fine tune and a coarse tune on that, pulse width, and it can be set to be keyboard track or not. You also have a low frequency switch that allows VCO2 to be used as an LFO per voice through the cross modulation section. Following the VCOs, you have your mixer section, so you have a level control for VCO1, VCO2. You also have a square wave sub-octave generator beneath VCO1 and a noise generator. Following that, you have Tom's fantastic SEM filter, multimode filter that's continuously variable from low pass through to notch to the high pass. You have your cutoff, resonance control, a band pass switch, and you can set it to be half or full tracking the keyboard where the cutoff will open based on, you play higher keys and the cutoff will open more, so you can kind of have a little bit more clarity to your sounds, keep your bass sounds a little bit more closed with the cutoff, and just basically kind of tune the filter as you're playing the keys. You have a filter envelope here with velocity sensitivity, positive and negative amounts of modulation from that, and then you have your VCA envelope with velocity sensitivity as well. That's your entire analog signal path. Everything's in the analog domain, discrete oscillators, discrete filters on each voice. Above that, you have all your modulation. So you have a single low frequency oscillator that can be synced to the tempo of the instrument, whether you're synced externally or just running it internally. You have multiple waveforms, sine, sawtooth, reverse sawtooth, square, and random. Your mount control, and then 6 destinations for the LFO. So you have VCO 1 and 2 pitch, respectively, pulse width for 1 and or 2, of the pulse width modulation of oscillators 1 and or 2, amplifier modulation, filter cutoff, and then filter mode, which is very, very cool, where you can actually use the master oscillator to modulate the mode of the filter. It has great, great effects. Following that, we have the cross mod section, and that has positive or negative modulation from the filter envelope or VCO2. So that actually will have 6 destinations. We're missing a button here on the prototype, but all the same modulation destinations that are available on the keyboard will be on the production unit of the module. You have destinations for VCO1, the shape of VCO1, the pulse width of VCO1, filter frequency, and again, filter mode. So this is really cool. You can do high frequency audio rate modulation of any of these destinations, or again, if you set VCO2 to low frequency mode, you can use VCO2 as a low frequency oscillator per voice to modulate any of the destinations. Following that, we have an aftertouch with positive and negative modulation for, again, those same modulation destinations, including LFO amount. And then you have a couple miscellaneous parameters. Detune acts as slop, which is the same on the Prophet 6. When you're running it polyphonically, detune is a slop that adds nonlinear pitch tracking to the VCOs. So keeps them kind of moving, gives you that nice beating and just real organic, classic feeling of VCOs. You have a pan spread parameter, wheel range, and program volume. Above that, you have your master volume. You have your dual digital effects. This is a great section. We have some amazing effects models, which we've also added to from the Prophet 6. We have a model of Tom's original phaser, Tom's original ring mod, and additional flangers. We've actually just recently backported those effects to the Prophet 6 as well, so you can use those on the Prophet 6. Following that, you have your BPM clock divider, arpeggiator with octaves in various modes, and then your step sequencer here. It's all really, really easy to use. Just press record, enter individual notes, enter rests, play chords up to 6 notes at once. You can add ties. It's just a really great way to quickly make sequences, and then if you're not using all the voices in those sequences, you can jam over them as well. So that's basically the signal path, the modulation path, effects, and then sequencing and arpeggiating and clocking. The synth comes with the same 500 unique presets in the OB-6. Sounds, again, sonically the same. On the back here, we have 2 stereo outputs as well as a headphone output, pedal inputs for filter and volume, and then foot switch inputs for sustain and the sequencer trigger input. So that's pretty cool. You can actually sequence the trigger, trigger the sequence with the trigger input, or actually trigger the envelopes or gate the envelopes using that input. You have your classic MIDI DIN, in, out, and through, and then USB MIDI. So you have tons of connectivity for your studio, and even better, if you already have the keyboard, you can expand the voice count using the polychain function, so you can have a 12-voice Oberheim system, and that could be 2 modules, it could be 2 keyboards, it could be a keyboard and a module, at which point, once you have them polychained, you can just kind of leave this off to the side and control everything from the master unit. So it's a really great way to get those. You want none of your tails to ever get stolen for the most part. Get into a 12-voice system, sounds amazing. I think that about covers it. We do have portamento, unison mode, that's actually very cool as well. Unison mode, you can actually select the number of voices you use between 1 and 6. And then we also have a chord latch feature. So if you're holding a chord and you press unison, it'll latch that chord, and then you can transpose that from the sequence, from the keyboard, and use the arpeggiator or sequence that as well. So it's another really powerful feature. We anticipate the projected cost is going to be $29.99, and we anticipate it becoming available late September, early October. So if you have any further questions, you can contact us directly at support@davesmithinstruments.com. We'd be happy to help. Thank you, Synthtopia, for having us. It's always a pleasure.